Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Tesla. It is time for another update, and today I will be sharing with you the exact structure to watch out for, the exact structure that could signal a significantly larger correction to actually start, potentially leading only to an internal correction that would actually still imply potentially a 20% drop, 30% even. That could imply a move all the way into the red area of support, yeah? 70% from the current levels. Now, this is not a doom and gloom video to continue in this uptrend, but we do have to mind how fragile the structure has become. So we go into the smaller time frame where within this structure, I have been tracking a diagonal pattern. There's really no in between. I cannot track this as an impulse, and I was looking for this wave C to extend to higher prices to build a 5-wave pattern, as I currently doubt that it is already the case, and if it is, we actually have some issues because the ideal target of the wave C has not been reached. That sits at the 100% extension of the wave A, well, that is about $760, still quite far from the current levels. And it doesn't stop here. The ideal target for the entire wave tree hasn't been reached. So even if I wanted to maybe consider this to have been a wave C and only form a marginally higher high, doesn't really work too well. We haven't reached the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. That is another issue, another indication of the weakness of the structure we are currently within. So right now I am on high alert for the possibility that we are looking potentially at a different pattern. So from a smaller time frame perspective, I was looking for this wave C to build a 5-wave pattern. I was tracking an ending diagonal internally. There seems to be a good chance to build such a pattern. And for this idea, I would have expected to extend higher within wave 5. Well, even within this wave 5, if it were to materialize, it would have had to be a rather strong one to reach the ideal target for the wave 3 at the very least. Not impossible, and it actually still remains a possibility today, but we do not see a lot of strength within the initial move up of the wave 5, and do keep in mind that we are tracking a diagonal pattern within this white wave C, which means that I'm only looking for 3 waves up within the wave 5 of the wave C. It can still manage to reach those levels, but with the currently available structure, we see quite great signs of weakness. We see probably a higher likelihood that it won't. Right within the wave A, I would have actually liked to see a 5-wave pattern. I would have liked to see maybe at the very least this as an internal wave C extend a bit higher, and within the wave B maybe build a bit of a stronger retracement. In that case, we could have expected from, let's say, the 38.2% retracement to extend within the wave C and reach the ideal target for the overall wave tree. We are now looking at a rather weak internal wave C. We are looking at a rather large correction, and even though the move down doesn't seem particularly impulsive and might possibly seem even corrective if we actually zoom in, we do not have a move up that would strongly imply it to be able to extend to even higher prices, as within the smaller time frame, I only have 3 waves for this structure. So we now have a clear picture of the weakness of the white interpretation. Well, if I am to zoom out at this point, what other options do I really have? Well, it's not going to be too nice. I could consider this structure to be instead building a larger ABC pattern where it could theoretically be an extension of this wave C, where this would have only been the wave 1 of the wave C, then we would get a wave 2, 3, 4, and 5. But this is not actually ideal either, as this wave C would become disproportionate to what I have been tracking within this structure so far. It doesn't really fit too well with my overall expectations. It would end up being a bit large, a bit strong, and not only that, but even the internal correction within this structure would actually be a bit large for what I would have been tracking even within a wave 2 of that interpretation. Right now, we don't have a clear picture of what else we could be expecting. One scenario I can consider is indeed the possibility of this white wave B to be unfolding instead within the idea of a triangle. Yeah, we could be building, in the case of Tesla, something like an A, B, C, D, E, in which case we could end up being bound by a range for a significant amount of time. We could see it end up trending within this region for the foreseeable future, and I'm talking about years in this case. Could something else be unfolding? Well, yes, technically, but right now, this has to be one of the most likely scenarios in my opinion. I'll be looking for different possible interpretations as we get more data, but definitely the most important level to watch right now for me is the 78.6% retracement in yellow at $257. Failing to hold these levels would actually open about two major possibilities. The bullish one is actually an expanding triangle, right? Still a triangle, but instead of contracting, we would see it expand in something like an A, B, C, D, E, and then we would see the reversal to higher prices within a wave C. Is that ideal? Actually not. Probably not. And it would also lead into a structure, that would be quite difficult to trade. Investing wouldn't be a great option either, because while we can expect pretty large swings, we can also expect those to happen to the downside. Then what else? Well, my follow-up preferred scenario would very likely be the idea of a full reset, where all of this would have been part of potentially a wave 4 correction, something like a very complex flat correction in an A, B, and a wave C that would very easily be able to reach the 38.2% retracement once more. There are some nuances there. It doesn't actually need to reach those exact levels, but it is certainly way too early to gauge any targets we would have for such an interpretation. So we move into the smaller time frame, where today I want to show you, as I was saying in the beginning of the video, the structure to watch out for. What I do not want to see, since we already have only 3 waves up, it has failed to build the 5th wave. Well, I do not want to see 5 waves down. If this happens, especially without forming a lower low here, we will have to be prepared that most likely this yellow wave C is happening, if not something even more bearish, in which case I'll be watching for the levels of resistance up to the 50% retracement as I'm tracking a potential impulse here. So for continued upside, I first need to see a sustained break above $410. And if this happens, the threat doesn't simply go away, but it would have another chance to maybe see at the very least another high within this structure. Potentially, it could indeed be building within this white wave 5, an ending diagonal within the wave C of an A, B, C pattern, right? That is a possibility. And in that scenario, I would still have the area of support in orange for a potential wave B, where I would really like it to have a bottom in right now within this wave B. And technically, it can still see a reset, but I do worry if it cannot manage to hold the current lows. As a quick recap of the smaller time frame, I will be on a high alert for a potential initial 5V move down within this structure. It would be a high threat to the integrity of the structure up, as I would be able to then look for an internal 1-2 setup that would suggest with high probabilities we see continuation to even lower prices. But for now, we will stop here, and if you want even more from me, you can check out the Patreon. But other than that, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.